Hey guys, quick editor's note. The audio on this camera is absolutely terrible. I apologize for that in advance. Hope the tutorial helps with the visual aspect of things. This is a point of view camera, so I wasn't able to capture everything that I wanted to with certain angles working in this tight space, but hopefully this should get you through what you need to get through.
Hey guys, welcome back to Full Bore. Today we're going to be replacing the ignition switch on a 2003 Mitsubishi Outlander. Now this should apply for 2003 through 2006. So basically what's been going on is I'll put the key in the ignition, turn the key, and nothing will happen. Now clearly power is being sent somewhere into the vehicle because the radio and the lights will all dim, but neither the starter nor anything else will turn over. There's no click, no sounds, no anything. So this leads me to believe that the ignition switch has started to go on us, which is something that will happen in a vehicle this old. Luckily, replacing the ignition switch on this vehicle isn't too bad. We're just going to be replacing or popping off a bunch of plastic panels, and you should really only need some basic tools. Phillips head screwdriver and a flathead screwdriver. And that should get us through most of what we need to do. Our ignition switch is basically around here in this general vicinity. So we'll need to remove this top piece of plastic, this bottom piece of plastic, as well as this side piece of plastic. To do so, we'll be needing to remove some screws, all of which will be Phillips head, and we'll be using this flathead to pry the plastic out of its perch where the clips go. So let's get moseying on to this part of the process. There we go. Move our seat all the way back. Now this piece of plastic will need to become undone. To get started, we're going to come on down here. And right here's a screw, right here's a screw, there's two screws right here, and there will be another screw somewhere else, right here. So let's go ahead and get ourselves some magnetic parts trays. Alright, let's get these screws unscrewed. We'll start with the ones here in the steering column. That's one screw. These screws are in there kind of tight. That's two screws. And bada bing, bada boom, we got the last one out. This one was a little bit of a pain in the butt because it was really in there, so what I did is I got a torch and I heated up the end of the screwdriver, and I mated the screwdriver up to the threads and let it sit for a few seconds, and that heated up the whole situation and got it loose. I don't know if I would really recommend doing that because it did melt a little bit of plastic, but, well, it's better than stripping the threads and then having this thing stuck in there forever. So, gotta do what you gotta do. Now, we just have a few more screws to undo, and these are gonna be much, much easier to get to. We're gonna try using a magnetic screwdriver. Just kind of pull them out because they're just kind of in there. There we go. Now this screw looks a bit different than the rest of them, so you'll know which ones go where. And the last one is over here. It'll be much like the same as the one we just took out. And like that. We've got all the screws we need to get out. So we can move our tools aside and start pulling things apart. So this is where we're going to use our flathead screwdrivers. We're first going to pry this top piece off from the steering column. And if we start to move the bottom piece, you'll be able to see what we're after, but we need to remove a few things to get the bottom column off, which is why we took apart what we did. Some panel gaps that'll help in removal. That's that part. And up here, there we go. All right, we've got the bottom panel out, which should allow us to then take the steering wheel adjustment and move it down, and voila, this is what you're after. This is your ignition switch. Actually, my ignition switch seems to not be in all the way, which might be my problem to begin with. If you look right here, it's not seated as good as it should be. But we're going to replace it all the same. Now, to get better access, this piece just pivots out and slides down. Keep in mind the position of this lever for your steering wheel adjustment, because this goes through here. Now we have clean access to the part we need, which should just be a Phillips head screw. Once we got it out enough, we can do it by hand. Put it in our magnetic parts tray so we don't lose it. And then the component just comes out like such. Now you will need to disconnect the wires. Which, looking at it, I'm just thinking about the best way to go about this without hurting my fingers. There we go, simple flathead. Removed that wire. And this cable should come undone. There we go. So just twisting it is enough to make it come undone. You are going to break the clip that goes on it, but we're getting a new part anyway, so that clip shouldn't matter. For the time being, to make the car stop beeping, we're going to reattach this cable. And now we have our old ignition switch out, and we can put the new ignition switch in. So here we have our old ignition switch, and here we have our new ignition switch. So we're going to reinstall our new switch. But first, we're going to get the clip back in. So we need to remove this clip slide There we go. This slides over right there. And we'll go ahead and plug that back up and plug our main wire harness back up to our new switch. And then we'll take the screw that came out from the original screwdriver works a little better. And there we go. Give it a little tug, make sure all the wires are hooked up properly. Make sure everything's sitting properly. And now, we can test if we can turn the car on. You might want to do that now before you put everything back together. So we're going to go ahead and give that a whirl. Alright. She turns on just fine. Now, we can start putting everything back the way it came out. So we'll start with the bottom of the center console. Remember, we're going to route our steering wheel adjustment through this hole. And that sits somewhere around here. And we will put it may take a minute to figure it all out. There we go. We got our bottom panel on one side. We can put a little tray back in. And we can come to the other side, raise up our steering wheel, lock it in, and just push our panels back in place. Take our top panel, slide that down in there. Now, we can more accurately align all the plastic parts. It's on one side. Gonna make sure do everything correct on both sides. Go. That clamshell is together. And at this point, you've only got a few screws that you got to put back in. We'll start with the center console screws. Well, not the center console, the steering wheel screws, as they're the most finicky to get to. That's one. next one. It's a little difficult, but once you place it in, screw it down tight, and then the last one goes in that deep crevice which is located closer to the bottom of everything. Alright, she's in there, and then you just got these last two screws. You're going to hold the plastic panels in place. That's one. The second one just goes in here. And bada bing, bada boom, we have it done. Our new ignition switch is installed.